اللهم صل على محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وأفضل الصلاة وأزكى التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من لدن آدم إلى قيام يوم الدين. آمين رب العالمين. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَمَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُّصِيبَةٍ فَبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُمْ وَيَعْفُو عَن كَثِيرٍ. Allah is speaking to the people, telling them that every trial and tribulation that you go through, every hardship, every disaster that happens, it's because of what you done, what your hands achieved, and Allah forgives much more. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. When we see disasters, whether it's natural disasters or disasters that are related to our lives, financial disaster or catastrophe or whatever, people, they claim that the presence of such tribulations, it means that this world is not organized. If the world was organized, why would such natural disasters happen? For example, there's an eclipse that happened today, just before Salat al-Maghrib apparently, which was a partial eclipse, a lunar eclipse before Salat, for the moon. And of course, we have a duty towards that. For those who saw it during the time of the eclipse, they have to pray Salat al-Ayat, which is 2 rik'at. Each rik'ah has 5 ruku'at, which you recite Surah al-Fatiha, Surah al-Hamd, and then you choose a surah with 5 verses. Surah al-Fatiha, and then Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatul qadr. Then you go ruku', Subhana Rabbiyal Azim wa bihamdih. You stand up, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ سُبْحَانَ رَبِّيَ الْعَظِيمُ وَبِحَمْدِهِ لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ خَيْرٌ مِنْ أَلْفِ شَهْرٍ سُبْحَانَ رَبِّيَ الْعَظِيمُ وَبِحَمْدِهِ, until you finish the surah, and you do the same in the second rik'ah. For those who saw the eclipse during its time, they have to pray and they have to repeat the prayers if they didn't pray on time. For those who knew from the news that it's going to happen, but during the time of its happening, they didn't see it until it finished, it's recommended for them to do the qada. For those who didn't know about it and weren't there when it happened and they didn't see it, it's recommended to repeat it, but you don't have to, it's not a must. So when people see that there are natural disasters like volcanoes, like eclipse, like earthquakes, they say that this world is not organized. And our ulama, when it comes to proving the existence of the Creator, they use an evidence that is called Burhanun Nudum or Burhanun Nadm. It's the evidence that the world is organized perfectly. The same way when we see a well-designed building, we realize that the architect was talented. You know, when we see an organized world, how the earth is turning around itself and around the sun, how the trees, they need a cycle of water and the sun and the soil, and all of these, they work in a perfect cycle. We say that when you see such a creation, you know that there is a creator, because every effect has a cause, and that creator is wise and great, because no one else can create such an accurate and beautiful creation. So they try to deny the existence of Allah because there are disasters in the world. When you say, for example, if Allah exists, why would He let volcanoes happen and people will be harmed? Why would earthquakes happen and people will be harmed? Why would there would be like bushfires and people's financial situation, the health situation is going to change? Or when you see injustice around the world, killing, crimes, when you see abnormalities in the newborn, a child is born with an abnormality. People, they say, where's the justice of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala? Allah doesn't exist. If Allah is all merciful as you claim, why would He allow such things to happen in this world? So some people, they use this as an evidence to say that there is no justice, or there is no creation, and there is chaos. And this misconception exists 300 years before Jesus Christ. 300 عام قبل الميلاد. Us as mu'mineen, these are tribulations to us. And we mentioned earlier in the previous nights that we're going to discuss this topic because when we deal on a daily basis with tribulations and trials, knowing that this is one of the norms in this dunya, this can form as an obstacle between us and change, between us and progression, because it will cause mental issues, it will cause depression, it will cause too many things, distraction at least. I'll be distracted by dealing with my problems, by dealing with my hardships. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. That we will test you. We surely will test you with poverty, with hunger, with lack of money, and with lack of food. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. The patient ones are, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is delivering the good news to them because they will have a great status in the day of judgment. Okay, for us to understand it more and to make sure that we avoid it from the way, we remove it from the way, we deal with it as something that is normal in the dunya and it's not going to cause a problem or an obstacle between us and seeking closeness to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, there's 5 things that we have to take into consideration. 5 rules will make overtaking the trials and the tribulation easier. You do it yourself. You do not need to go to a sheikh. You do not need to go to a psychologist. I'm talking in general as a first step. I am able to deal with it. And then if I have the capability to deal with it, then I won't be distracted from the greater goal. Because we see people, for example, when they want to get married, in that situation, in that state, in that interval of time, everything on their mind is this. And when they find hardships, and especially nowadays, it's getting harder and harder for the boys and the girls to get married, maybe for the reason they're not finding, for example, the proper spouse, or because the standards that they have is too high, So when they find it harder, it causes them some kind of depression. Okay, this is a trial. This is a test. How am I going to overcome it? We will see through 5 points. I will mention these 5 rules after Salat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. First rule, we have to keep in mind that there is no such thing as evil in Allah's creation. What does that mean? Because we know that Allah created good and evil. Allah created the tribulations. So what do I mean by there is no such thing that is called evil in our life? There is always order. There's always wisdom when it comes to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. While the description of an evil, it's something that is not real. Something that we call it unto a certain tribulation in a metaphorical way. What does that mean again? A lot of ulama, they describe the tribulation as such. They say, everything that you see evil in this world, initially it is good. But it is bad or evil from the point of view of the person that is affected by it directly. They give an example as the volcanoes. Volcanoes, when the volcano erupts, and the only people that will be harmed by, the only being that will be harmed by the volcano are the people who build their houses around the volcano, or the animals that live next to the volcano. But they say that what's it called? The positive things that results from a volcano are much more than the negative things. That benefits the nature, benefits the soil, make it, for example, a better soil for cultivation, for agriculture. And if you want to read about the benefits of the volcanoes, and you will know that it has many benefits to the nature. While the people that consider it a bad thing are the people that live in houses around the volcano, that they are harmed. For example, who doesn't love burgers? Burger is always nice and beautiful, you know. But for a person that the doctor told him that you have something in your stomach that doesn't allow you to eat such foods. Or milk, it has vitamin C, it's very good for you. But if a person is lactose intolerant, he can't drink milk. Okay? So in order to understand that more, and this is the view of Sayyidah Zainab salawatullahi wa salam. When in Karbala everyone was killed. Her brother Imam Hussein, Abu Fadl al-Abbas, the children, some of the children were killed. But what did she say to Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad? Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. I see nothing except beauty. How do I understand that? So from my point of view, I see this hardship as something that is bad and evil and depriving me from a lot of desires. But if I see it from the point of view of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, there is that lady that came to Prophet Dawood. I don't know if I mentioned this story earlier in the previous nights. A lady came to Prophet Dawood salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, and she was complaining. She said to him, show me the justice of Allah. Where's the justice of Allah? And this is something that a lot of us, we say it. If we are angry, when we go through a hardship, we have an issue, a problem, a fight with a family member, or someone stole our money, we say, where's the justice of Allah? We complain. Why Allah? Why did you do this to me? What did I do? That lady was saying the same thing to Prophet Dawood. She came to him. She said to him, show me the justice of Allah. Where is it? He said to her, what's wrong with you? Tell me, maybe I can help you. She said, my husband died, and I have 3 daughters. And I had a bit of money that I bought some silk threads to make clothes with it. And I sold these clothes, and with the profit that I made, I bought food for my children, and then I buy another silk threads, which I make clothes with it, and then that's my trade, that's my business. And it's always equal to what I need, my needs. So on this day, I went to the market and I bought the silk threads. As I was on my way back home to start making the clothes in order to provide for my family, a bird came and it snatched that silk threads from me. And now how am I going to feed my family? Tell me where is the justice of Allah? Who's going to provide for me? Prophet Dawood said to her, be patient, this is the money. She said, I don't want your money. So show me the justice of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And she left. So Prophet Dawood was sitting. As the woman left, after a few days, 5 tradesmen came to the Prophet Dawood, and they put a bunch of money, 1,000 dinar of gold, in front of Prophet Dawood. And they said to him, you give this money to whoever you want. It is a vow that we made. He said to them, what's the story of this money? They said, we were coming by the sea in the ship. We have our merchandise with us. And then the mast of the ship broke. And we were stuck in the middle of the sea. Nothing, the wind can't move us anymore. And then we ran out of food and water, and we didn't have anything else to eat. We started to starve. And then we made a vow. For 3 days we didn't have anything to eat. We made a vow to Allah that if He helps us through this situation, we will pay this amount of money to the Prophet of Allah, Dawood. And then when we made that vow, a bird came and threw a bunch of silk threads in the ship. We used it to fix the mast, and then we arrived to the shore, and here we are. Then Prophet Dawood called upon the woman, and he said to her, you were complaining about Allah on the land, and He was trading for you in the sea. So this lady, what she saw is the evil side of the story. She saw what harmed her, but Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala had hid for her something that is much more beautiful. Something that will not allow her to struggle in that way. That's the way Sayyidah Zainab salawatullahi wa salamu alayha saw what Allah had decreed upon them. Where Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad was mocking her. He said, كَيْفَ رَأَيْتِ صُنْعَ اللَّهِ بِأَخِيكَ الْحُسَيْنِ. When he says the word صُنْعَ Allah, it means he's telling her, how did you see the beautiful work of Allah that He done with you, brother Hussein? And she said, I see nothing except beauty. She saw the plan of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, which we see the effects of it right now. Who's successful around the world? Whose remembrance is immortal? That doesn't end. That is mentioned everywhere, in every spot of the land. So the first way and the first rule that we have to take into consideration, that even that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created evil and good, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees upon the human beings is always good, even though that from my point of view it is bad. Even when Allah punishes the evil ones, when Allah gives them more money in this dunya, that is evil, and we will mention this towards the end. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The second thing to take into consideration that will help us to overtake our trials. The first one is to see, always look at the bright side of it, that Allah knows best. Allah is the planner. The second rule of the norms of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in this dunya is to sacrifice and to be patient with the minority evil for the greater good. So Allah created the alamul malaika, the world of angels. And that world is empty from the materialistics. There is no desire. There is only worshippers, the angels. And Allah created another world, which is our world, that is deceived and controlled by the materialistics, where what affects us is the desires. There is the lust, there is the instincts, there is the envy, there is the hatred that is always controlling our decisions and actions. So this world, alamul madda, the materialistic world, either Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala creates it with majority evil, with 100% evil, and that's unjust, which is impossible. Or Allah creates it 50% evil and 50% good, and this is unjust as well, because it's going to be an endless fight between the haqq and the batil, what's right and what's wrong. Or Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala creates it majority evil and minority good, and evil will win, will be victorious, and this is unjust, and Allah doesn't want the batil to win, which leaves us with one option. Allah would create the world with minority evil and majority good. If we want to understand it through our daily experience, we realize that everything in this dunya, it doesn't come without evilness in it. It doesn't come without something that will ruin the pleasure. Even if you want to raise children, you want to have kids, people think that it's a very beautiful thing. But you sacrifice a lot. Children will give you a headache. You raise them, they will answer back to your face. They will insult you. They will cause humiliation to you in the community. And you are still patient with them. Why? Because you are looking forward for the greater good. If I get tired and I sacrifice and I'm patient with what Allah told me how to raise my kids, one day I will have a child that will benefit me when I grow older. Or a child when I die, because in the hadith, one of the things that will intercede for you in heaven, if you have a good child that will supplicate Allah to help you in the day of judgment. وَوَلَدٌ صَالِحٌ يَدْعُو لَهُ. Even this, if you want to build a business and to be successful, how many sacrifices that you have to do in the beginning? Hours of study in uni, You sacrifice the time with your friends that you enjoy. Some people, they can't even come to gain their spiritual nutrition for the sake of studying. They sacrifice too many things. Why? Because they eventually, for the greater good, living in this dunya, we sacrifice too many things. We see injustice around the world. We see all of this evil around the world. It is still considered minority in comparison to the beauty of the life under the government of Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman Ajjallahu ta'ala farajah. So Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala tells us that, do you want that beautiful, perfect government? He says, يَمْلَأُ الْأَرْضَ قِسْطًا وَعَدْلًا بَعْدَمَا مُلِئَتْ ظُلْمًا وَجَوْرًا. After it is filled with injustice. That injustice, because this is a continuation of the question that was asked yesterday. We are patient with this because no matter how great the injustice will be, it will still be considered little in comparison to the grace of living under the government of Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajah sharif. This is the second rule. So the first rule, what did we say? That there is only beauty. The rule of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam. I see nothing except beauty. The second thing, Allah created this world with minority evil and majority good, and we have to be patient with what is in this dunya, no matter how evil it gets, because it's considered minority in comparison to the government of the Imam. The third rule, perfection doesn't happen except we see the contradiction. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says to me that I give you the graces, I give you everything. I give you the breath, I give you the beauty, I give you the strength, I give you wealth, I give you parents, I give you a family, I give you وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. No matter how much time you spend in counting the graces of Allah, you won't be able to count it. He says, Allah says, I will give you all these graces, but under one condition. You have to be gratitude. And this is the philosophy behind worship. لزوم شكر المنعم. Showing gratitude. I show gratitude through worship, and gratitude is supposed to be shown the way Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala wants it. And this is one of the evidence that we use in theology. How do you prove that it's a must to worship Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala? لزوم شكر المنعم. For example, if someone helps you through a hardship in this dunya, the minimum thing that you do is to say thank you. And the amount of gratitude changes depending on the level and the status of the grace, the quantity and the quality of the grace, and the quality of the giver. It changes. So if we have the giver is Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, who doesn't need me, and the graces is the things that Allah gives it to me and no one else can. Health, who can give you health? Who can give you security other than Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala? That's why Amir al-Mu'mineen says, نِعْمَتَان مَجْهُولَتَان الصَّحَّ وَالْأَمَانِ. Health and security are two graces that are ignored, that are unknown, people are not grateful for. So Allah says that I give you all these graces, but under one condition, to show gratitude. But when we live in these graces and there is nothing that can ruin our pleasure and our happiness, what happens? We forget about Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. First thing that we forget about is Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. We start to think, what kind of outing am I going to spend my money on? Or my strength on when I sleep properly on Saturday night, and I say Sunday, it's the time for me to go out. And then first thing I do, I forget about Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So how am I going to reach perfection if I am living in the graces of Allah and there is nothing that ruins it? Here comes the role of the bala, of the trials. If you do not see the white bed in the hospital, you won't know the value of your health. If you do not live in a country that is not secure, you won't even understand the value of security. So this is one of the ways that Allah brings back the ibad to Him. That's why for the mu'min, if he doesn't get tested once every 40 days, then he's in a dangerous place. Allah is not satisfied with him. We have a hadith that إِذَا نَظَرَ اللَّهُ إِلَىٰ عَبْدٍ, if Allah looks upon a worshipper with mercy, He will give him three things. Either headache, or fever, or conjunctivitis in the eye. This is the hadith. So if I am not tested every 40 days, then I have to check my situation with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So if I do not see evil, how am I going to go towards good, towards Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala? And this is an issue that we live nowadays in this country, where parents, for them, because they want to avoid their children to leave them when they become at the age of 18, so they try to provide everything for the kids. The child has everything from a young age. He has the iPad, he has the phone, whenever he wants he opens the TV, he has the access to YouTube or even to Netflix, for kids apparently, which they can press on any profile they want and they see whatever they see. The child has access to all this. When does the child have time to understand deprivation? If you do not deprive your child from certain things, how would he understand perfection? So perfection can be achieved only through contradiction. The fourth rule, the verse that we started with. So we said first, we see nothing except beauty will help us to overcome our trials. Secondly, we know that this world is minority evil and majority good. And the third thing, to reach perfection, which is supposed to be the purpose of our creation, to reach perfection, it only can happen if we see the other side of the story. Not only evil, not only goodness, we see the evil as well. Number 4, rule number 4, the verse that we started with. Can you please close the door and let the kids inside? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. وَمَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُّصِيبَةٍ فَبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُمْ وَيَعْفُو عَنْ كَثِيرٍ. Every trial that you go through, it's from your own doing. And what Allah forgives is much more. The majority of the problems and the hardships and the tribulations that a human being goes through is from his own doing. The ulama, they give an example, the gas bottle that's in the house. You have a family of 4 or 5 members sleeping in their house, and they have a bottle of gas inside. And of course, not here in this country. Here, we don't have it. But in our home countries, people, they put a bottle of gas inside the house for the cooked up and whatnot. So this family is sleeping in peace, and a thief goes inside. He turns on the gas bottle, and that family suffocates and dies. Who do we blame here? Do we blame the father who bought the gas bottle? Or do we blame the man who sold the gas bottle? Or do we blame the man who made the gas bottle? Or do we blame the one who opened the gas bottle? We blame the one who opened the gas bottle, but who was punished by that action? The people that were sleeping. So when on this earth the people are rebelling against Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, Allah brings down punishments. That's why we mentioned in the lecture about Amr al-Ma'ruf wa Nahy al-Munkar. The Prophet says, لَتَأْمُرُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلَتَنْهُنَّ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ أو لا يبعثن الله عليكم أقواما لا يوقرون كبيركم ولا يحترمون صغيركم. You should forbid what's evil and enjoin what's good, otherwise Allah will send upon you people, oppressors, who will not respect the elders and will not have mercy over the kids, over the children. What's the sin of the innocent ones? But it's the doing of the people themselves. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala looks upon the human beings. He sees that people are rebelling against Him, and Allah brings down tribulations and hardships, because the life is dependent on a system. For every bad deed, there is consequences. If I choose to punch the wall and my hand will hurt, do I blame the wall? No, I blame myself because I chose to punch the wall. So every problem is because of the human beings themselves. I will give you an example. Ignorance. Nowadays, how many people are there that are seeking knowledge, especially religion, especially how to get to know more about their own faith? At least to respond against the misconceptions. Ignorance is one of the things that brings down trials and tribulations. When I understand that I am playing a part in this, then I do not blame Allah. Then it's not going to affect my religion. Then I will be happy because Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is forgiving my sins through that. Because the hadith says, البلاء للظالم أدب وللمؤمن امتحان وللأولياء درجة. That bala, tribulations is a punishment for the oppressor. And we oppressed ourselves by not seeking the knowledge. For example, there was an earthquake that happened in the Caribbean, in Haiti. 20,000 people died. And it was 7 Richters or something. I don't know the unit in English. So the same earthquake with the same strength happened after that in Japan. Not even one person was killed, only 13 injured. Because in the Caribbean, in the Haiti, they had no knowledge on how to deal with the earthquake. They were ignorant. But in Japan, they had knowledge. So that saved them. 20,000 people of innocent people, they weren't killed. Only 13 injured. So now, if I want to repel or avoid hardships and tribulations, I have to seek knowledge. It's one of the keys to the solution. But if I wake up from the morning, I open my phone, I have 12 games. I have 25 social media apps. Every now and then there's a new app. And all the apps are the same. You have X and you have Threads. And then Instagram and then TikTok and then Facebook. And if you want to count, they have accounts in every single social media app. And why is that? You get bored from Facebook, from switching the reels on Facebook, you go to Instagram, and then you go to TikTok, and then you don't have even time to go and seek knowledge. And this happens in your free time. In the time of your business, you cannot use your phone. In the time of, for example, you study for the you don't use your phone. But between the prayers, you can use the phone. This is what is happening. The time that we have to seek knowledge about our religion, it's not there anymore. So then we deserve it. We deserve it. And the 5th rule that we should take into consideration that helps us overcome our trials, and this is the main point that we have, is what we will mention after Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And this is that links the dunya to the hereafter. There, in the bahth of Ma'ad, the day of resurrection, there is one thing that we discuss. It's the pain and the suffering and the struggles that Allah will compensate you for. Every struggle that you go through, there is compensation in the day of judgment. Even to a point that a stumble, كل عثرة فيها غفران الذنوب. If you stumble, a simple stumble, that will wipe some of your sins. Or كل عثرة بذنب. Every stumble is for a sin that was committed. It means that sin was wiped and eliminated because of that stumble. Al-Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam says in the hadith, رضا الله رضانا أهل البيت نصبر على بلائه فَيُوَفِّينَ أُجُورَ الصَّابِرِينَ. That the satisfaction of Allah is our satisfaction when we are patient with His testing and trials, then He will compensate us. And when I realize that everything that I'm patient with in this dunya, be it patience with obedience, be it patience with the sin, be it patience with the musibah and the trials, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will compensate us on the day of judgment. And then we ask ourselves, is there anyone in the whole mankind since Adam that tribulations fell upon him the same way as it fell upon Imam al-Husayn salawatullahi wa sallam? No one. There is no one like him when it comes to musibah. That's why how we condole ourselves, we say this, أنست رزيتكم رزايانا التي سلفت وهونت الرزايا الآتية. That when we read about tragedies, O Ahlul Bayt, it will make us forget about our own current trials, and it will make the Future trials and tribulation, easier. And then we listen to Imam Sadiq. Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. In this dunya we know. In the day of judgment we cannot tell how Allah compensates Al-Imam al-Hussein. But in this dunya we know. Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says that Allahu awwad al-Hussein fi qatlih. Allah compensated Al-Imam al-Hussein for being killed, that he made the imams of his offspring, and he made the cure in his turba, and he made the dua is responded to under his dome. That kind of compensation was especially for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. You know, it's recommended to eat of the turba of Imam al-Hussein for cure, but it's haram to eat from the turba of the Prophet. And the Prophet is better than Imam al-Hussein. It's haram to eat a speck of the soul of the Prophet, but it's recommended to eat from the turba of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Why? That's a virtue for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein as a compensation for the sacrifice that he had. And our sacrifices will be compensated. So 5 rules. I see nothing except beauty. Secondly is what? Minority evil, majority good. Third is what? Perfection cannot be reached except I see the contradiction. Fourth point is what? That all the problems and the hardships that we go through, it's because of the human beings themselves. 5, when I know that every pain I go through is compensated and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't forget about it, that will help me overcome my trials myself. And being patient with the ghaiba, the occultation of the Imam of our time, Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. We ask Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala to hasten his reappearance and to grant us the tawfiq to be of those who will be martyred under his standard. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه، ولتعجيل الفرج واستجابة الدعاء وقبول الأعمال وقضاء الحوائج وشفاء المرضى ولأرواح أموات المؤمنين والمؤمنات من مات على الإيمان. نهدي الجميع ثواب ما قرأنا وثواب المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.